Our families were all from Texas, and, you know, there was a reluctance to believe that he would care for a normal person like us.
Brian and Alma Hart moved to Massachusetts 10 years ago.
We were wrong, clearly, completely wrong.
Ted Kennedy is not everyone's hero. After decades as liberal leader of the Senate, he has won the admiration and allegiance of many, but he has critics nationwide who see him as a symbol of liberal excess and moral failings. And then there are those such as the Harts, who didn't know what to make of the senator until he stepped into their lives. One fall night in 2003, Brian and Alma received an alarming phone call from their son John, who was stationed in Iraq.
He wanted me to know that they were desperately short of body armor and vehicular armor. He believed that he would be killed on the road in an ambush. To my lasting regret, that was the last conversation we ever had with him. And it haunts you.
A week later, John was on patrol in a canvas-topped Humvee that was ambushed. He died in a hail of bullets. The Harts buried their son that fall in Arlington Cemetery. Ted Kennedy called to ask if he could attend the funeral. At the cemetery, Brian expressed his outrage to the senator.
How could our country send troops to war, not properly equipping them to be the best in the world? I mean, we were paying top dollar, we should be getting the results.
The two men quickly became allies. In the years that followed, Kennedy took up Hart's cause in the Senate, and in 2005 co-sponsored a bill that mandated adequate armor for all Humvees.
Without a doubt, there are many young men and women coming home today that would otherwise have been dead or grievously wounded without his support. He made government work for common, regular, middle-class families like us.
When people act like politics and government is a useless process, you know, he's the person I think of when I argue with them that it's not.
Jessica Katz was born with a rare condition that kept her from digesting food. Her illness would have been easily treatable in the U.S., but in 1978, for the infant daughter of Jewish dissidents in the Soviet Union, her situation was critical.
I was, you know, on the brink of death. Meanwhile, the Soviet government was saying that I had state secrets, so I wasn't allowed to leave the country.
Jessica's parents took their case to the international media, angering the Soviet authorities and jeopardizing their own safety. Kennedy, who was emerging as a champion of human rights, heard their story and flew to Moscow. He arranged an unofficial midnight meeting with Boris Katz.
I don't know how many people in the world can say about someone, you know, he saved my baby's life, but it is certainly true in the case of our family.
The senator met with Soviet leaders to secure exit visas for the Katzes. Arriving in the U.S., they were greeted personally by Kennedy.
It was sort of very unreal to see that person who made the difference, you know, came to Logan to, you know, embrace you as the first person who I saw.
The airport was not the last they saw of him.
He tried to help us in many ways that were invisible to the newspapers or to the public.
Kennedy's staff in Washington scanned the daily papers for news about constituents, and they were expected to find phone numbers so the senator could reach out. He made the same effort for Senate colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Gordon Smith was a Republican senator from Oregon.
My son Garrett, as he grew older, he was a manic depressive, and the day before his 22nd birthday, he took his life. I went back to Oregon to bury him, and that was, you know, the darkest valley of my life. It meant the world to me that he would call.
Smith remembers how powerful that simple phone call from Kennedy was.
Call from his office to Little Pendleton, Oregon, to say he was sorry, and he was thinking of me and praying for me.
My phone rang, and it was this big booming voice, and it said, "This is Ted Kennedy from Washington, D.C." My husband, Mike McGinty, worked for Marsh McLennan, and he was in the World Trade Center for a meeting on September 11th. I knew right away once I saw it for myself that he was not alive.
Kennedy called her on the 12th.
Like, who was I, Cindy McGinty from Foxborough, Massachusetts? I mean, he didn't know me or owe me anything. When I hung up, I thought, he meant it when he said, "If you need anything."
Since 2001, Kennedy and his staff have assisted Cindy and other 9/11 families with the bureaucracy of victim compensation. On the anniversary of the attack, Cindy always gets a letter or a phone call from the senator.
He really did teach me how to pick myself up and put one foot in front of the other and move forward again.
People who know this side of Kennedy sometimes find it impossible to persuade friends or relatives who don't share their reverence for the senator.
There have been great schisms in our extended family over these issues.
While Brian's relatives cannot seem to reconcile the senator's many contradictions, he sees a bigger picture.
For all of the haters out there, they forget about redemption and doing the right thing. The man's got brain cancer, and he calls to wish Alma, a good day on John's anniversary. That counts for something. That means something to us.